Okay, this is the Whitworth cannon built by Joe Girard. This is the way the breech works. That's the breech open, of course. The way the loading procedure, the way it was taught to me, you take the bullet that was cast in the mold. It's seated into the bore. Has an acrylic rod. You just go like that, tamp it in the bore. That's all it takes. Then you take the measured amount of powder, which I use 3F powder. It's a relatively small powder chamber, so you get a little more bang for the buck. 3F black powder, and wrap it in tin foil. For matches, you're supposed to wrap it 3 times for muzzle loaders. I don't know if there's any real rules for breech loaders. I only wrap it once, unless I tear it slightly or something. The powder charge is placed in here, and it fits in there just kind of loosely. I form the foil over that rod that I used to pack the ramrod in, and just make it loose form, pour the powder in it, twist the top, and then cut the top off like that. Anyway, that fits in there loose like that. It should fill up the powder chamber. Okay, then, and I'm not going to do this for obvious reasons, because I don't want to shoot the cannon now. Then the breech is closed. There's a punch in the back of the breech here that will punch the powder bag, and it's closed firmly. Okay, that's that. The cannon lock works as follows. Very important. This is your lanyard. It has a safety. You need to use it. That goes in there like that. You can take a shotgun primer then, and it'll insert in the little hole right here. That's pretty much all that takes. And then you take and put the key in the slot. It's right back here. Now at this point the cannon is relatively safe as a cannon can be, because the safety's in. Once you pull this safety out, it's kind of almost a hair trigger. So you want to be a little bit careful. Anyway, when you get ready to fire, you pull the safety out. Of course, you make sure you're pointed in a safe direction. And I'm going to pull the primer out of this, because I don't really want to fire it. I just cleaned the gun. Not that the primer would dirty it up that bad, but anyway, when you pull the safety out, you stand clear of the recoil. There's going to be a blast that comes out of the 2 sides here. You want to stand clear. You'll fire in the hole twice, pull the lanyard, and she fires. That's the way it works. And if you do wrap your tinfoil bag 3 times, like if you're in a match and they say you need to do that, you might want to run a thin wire in here and actually poke the bag. I think a shotgun primer would actually blast through even 3 layers of tinfoil, but of course we wouldn't want to have a misfire and be wrong about that. So it's pretty cheap insurance to run a wire through there. Anyway, that's the way it works. And again, the opening of the breech, you just open it up like this, spin it around. Works better if you don't tie the lanyard on it. And it pivots out. The sight is right there. The front sight consists of a standard hooded front sight. It has interchangeable apertures. The back sight has an adjustable aperture. You can change the diameter by sliding a little, I forget what you call it, I forget, but there's a little lever right here that you can slide and change the aperture. By loosening the eye cup like this, you loosen this, turn this crank, you can adjust your windage. By loosening this and turning the knob down here on the bottom, you can raise and lower your sight setting to, for fine adjustments. However, if say you want to shoot a long shot, but you want to come back to your previous range, like say you're shooting a match, but then you want to shoot a long shot, you can just raise this up to any one of the marks. It's marked along the side here. You can raise it up to any one of the marks, tighten that, and you're right there. But then when you want to go back to shooting at your range, known range, you can just run it right down to the stop and leave it there. And it's a very accurate sight, works great. I wanted to show you the elevation controls. You can see that gear down there. You turn the crank, and of course that transfers the motion to the screw and elevates the barrel. And it works really slick. It's a good process. That just turns that, raises and lowers it. I wish you kind of had a bigger wheel. I think you'd have a little more leverage, but it works pretty good. And anyway, the only thing you have to be careful of is this wheel right here. Occasionally, under recoil, well, this will jump up and land like that. You need to make sure that's in the track. Also, this lifts up, and then you have windage. There's a crank over on this side that adjusts your windage of the cannon. It's one of the few things that the Whitworth was famous, or not a few things, one of the things the Whitworth was famous for was the windage adjustable carriage. And I knew I'd spell that powder measure, but anyway. Next thing I'm going to show is, this is the way I buy the tin foil. This is pre-cut. You can buy it at restaurant supply places. A lot of wholesale groceries have it, and it's all pre-cut. You can just pull out a piece of tin foil just like that. This is actually the powder measure. It can also be used for the powder form or the foil form. Just wrap it around there like that. Some guys get real anal about this. I haven't found it to make much difference whether you do a nice neat job on this or whether you just kind of wad it up. But anyway, pull that out. That's your powder container. Then I use 3F black powder, which this is not 3F black powder. This is actually ground charcoal. I fill the powder measure. Level it off. Go like that. Shake it down a little bit. Twist the top. Make kind of a giant Hershey's Kiss looking thing. And then take a set of dikes, cut the excess off. I see my camera angle wasn't all that good there, but that's kind of the way it goes when you're working it yourself. Anyway, just to show you a little more of the cannon. The wind's coming up. Anyway, it's got loading tools mounted on the side, and those are original tank cleaning rods. They go together. There's a brass ends that insert. They kind of thread into the carriage down there in the end so they don't rattle out or anything. They're a pain in the neck to use. They're slow to screw together and stuff like that. I use this ramrod right here for everything. It works just great. There's another one of those regular cannon cleaning rods. There's some accoutrements that fit in there, but with this long rod right here, you can do everything that needs to be done. This is your cleaning jag. It works great. Use about washcloth style rags, something, or if it's a shop towel, those red shop towels work pretty good for cleaning patches. They run up and down the barrel. This is just made out of a piece of copper pipe so it doesn't spark or anything. Not that you have to worry about that when you're cleaning. This is the handle of the cleaning rod, and the reason I'm showing you this is, oh, this is going to be difficult. One hand. This unthreads. Two hands is pretty easy. Leaves a threaded section right there, and we have a few things in the trail that will thread onto that. I think they're in the trail anyway. Yes, there is your bore brush, and I think that's a different front sight, and this is a thread adapter for a different style brush. Brush is the other brush that came with it. I don't think I've ever even used that one. The wire brush seems to work the best. That might work good for just powder felling, but of course it doesn't do anything for any potential leading or anything that you might get in the barrel, which leading hasn't been a problem, but I prefer the wire. Joe had these, came with the cannon. They're different attachments for the firing mechanism. As you can see, the one is stamped for a friction primer. The other one, I don't know exactly what that abbreviation stands for. I've never used any of them. Obviously he has. I think it's just a larger touch hole for a friction primer through the cap lock system. This is a spare anvil for the firing mechanism, a spare spring. This is the Teflon washer that makes the gas seal in the back of the breech. This is a spare one. The one that's in there has been fired hundreds of times and it looks just as good as this one, so I can't imagine you'll ever have to replace it, to be honest. Brass plate, hand engraved by Joe, and it's gotten kind of tarnished. That is the inside of the cap, the breech cap. You can see that piece right there is basically an Allen head set screw with a very tiny little hole in it. And of course that's what your flash from your shotgun primer comes through. Now if you remove that, you can use a friction primer. I've done that, it works just fine. However, if you remove that and use the cap lock without that in there, it puts too much back pressure and you'll damage the spring from the cap. I mean, it's no big deal, it's a standard spring you can buy anywhere, but And I'll show you in a minute how easy that is to take out and change. Okay, this is the process for removing the firing mechanism of the gun. Just loosen it. This unthreads. You can do this for cleaning or whatever. Sometimes you have to loosen the T-handle bolts just a little. If I just loosen those, that comes right out. This is the firing mechanism. Here's your anvil spring. This is the Teflon seal, which you can see it looks just like new. I believe those other parts that I showed you that I didn't know what they were for, I think they go in here, but I've never found a use for them, so I don't really know. Anyway, take this apart. This just unthreads like that. Anvil comes out. Spring change would be a piece of cake. There is a spare anvil in there that seems to be lighter than this one. I haven't really found any preference to either one. I've used them both. Again, when you put this back in, it just slides through here. Get my hands out of the way. Try to get it where these flash panels here, this is where the flash comes out. You want those to be parallel with the handle. It pretty much comes up that way, seems like whenever I do it anyway. And then I tighten the handle bolts down also. I actually don't think Joe did that. I think he left them a little bit loose. I just like the feel of them being nice and tight. Another look at the bullet. And the reason I'm showing you this is when I shoved it in the bore the other day, I wanted to let you know that this diameter here actually rides on the lands of the rifling. You can see this is the one that I actually put in the barrel. You can see it's marked by the lands. These raised rings here match the grooves of the rifling. So when you shove it in, it stops right there. You can't, I guess you could if you used a mallet or something, but just by hand you can't shove it in past this point. That gives it a good bore riding nose. I know it's not a very good looking bullet, kind of a big ugly slug looking thing, but it's the mold blocks that I got with the cannon are literally that long. I couldn't go for any kind of an ogive or anything like that. That's the best I could get. Originally the mold blocks were cut for a really odd looking bullet that didn't shoot worth a damn. It was even worse looking than this one, but this one actually does shoot pretty good. If you cast it out of pure lead, it's just over 2 pounds. Wheel weights, stuff like that, it's just under 2 pounds. Pretty cost effective to shoot. Shoot these occasionally, and it says it's a 40 millimeter practice round. I have no idea where he got them. There's about 15 of these that I got with the cannon. Oh, I don't know if there's that many, but a few of these I got with the cannon. I've never shot them. He said they really go because they're so light. The range card that I use for the cannons. Keep track of most of my shots. I get kind of flaky and don't keep track of every shot like I should. This was shooting this cannon. Range was 350. The 2.5 ounces is a small measure. That's the measure I was using in the video earlier. As you can see, I shot 3 in the bullseye at 350 yards this day, and then it started raining, so that's where we quit. Of course, who wants to blow a group like that? And these are going to show up on the video, but the cannon is marked. It's marked like a sharp sight. You got your first mark up there is 1, 2, 3, and then each one of these little marks is 50 thousandths apart. And there's finer marks down here, the ones where you use there's 2.5, 5, 7.5, and that they're 50 thousandths apart. It's nicely marked, but you need your reading glasses. And everything in the trail compartment. I've got the brushes, the other diopters, or whatever they called, and the rear sight and the front sight. It's right in here. I'll probably put a little bubble wrap on that. There's Boondoggle again. Here's the firing device. This is in the correct position with the vents out the side here. You do get a pretty significant blast out of the side of these. It's not to be underestimated. Also, after you fire it, you want to make sure that the old primer is not laying right there, because if it lays right there, it'll cause you a misfire next time. And I have actually fired this thing just by going like that, but you got to be quick. Well, I think that's everything I know about the 40. It's been a really good gun. I guess I could show you the muzzle. The original Whitworth actually had the front sight right here on top of the trunnion, like a Parrott rifle. And then the rear sight, of course, went back there on the hinge. Well, Joe was like me. He just couldn't bear to give up that much sight radius. So he put his out here on the end, on the muzzle like this. I've got the sight in storage now, but it just slides on this. It's the same type of dovetail device that target scopes slide on and stuff. Anyway, and there you can see the rifling in the barrel. It's a beautiful barrel. It's I was told it was brand new when the cannon was built. It was never fired. There's where this other ramrod store is down there. It'll probably be taped to the trail for shipping. So it'll be somewhere else, because it's sticking out there like that. I'm sure it'll get bent. Somewhere, I haven't found it yet, but there's a wrench for those square nuts on the wheels. The wheels were built by the Amish, I was told. Don't know anything more about them than that. Joe has not videos, but snapshots of building the whole rest of the cannon. Like most cannons, most of the work's in the carriage. Oh, maybe not on a Whitworth. The back sight has an adjustable aperture.